So leading straight on from our previous animation where we created a ball bouncing here, let's have a look at how we might get some output for this, shall we? First of all, I think we ought to pick a camera angle that's going to have the whole of this animation in it, so something like this, for example. Let's just check, bring that down a little way, and then maybe rotate that around. There we go. Maybe come out a little bit more. I think that should probably do it. Yep. So everything's going to stay in frame. That's good. Because I'm in the, in fact that's an orthographic, that's interesting. That should really be perspective view. That's better. Okay. So because I can see everything there, and because I'm in a perspective view, I'll press Ctrl+C, which creates me a camera. And I'll click on that to make it 35mm lens. So we'll just tweak it again here. That's good. I'll come back out to my 4 views, and I've got a perspective view here as well. What I'm going to do now is just create a flat plane just to put some shadows on. So we'll create a flat plane there. There we go. And I'll open up my asset browser. Just give that a few moments. Yes, I'll accept that. And I think at the top of the architectural materials here we've got some concrete. Yep, I think that should do. So I'll drag. I'm actually going to drag and drop this straight out of there onto that object. And I'll apply some UVW mapping as well. And I'll use my manipulator so that I can just, there we go. We'll make that nice and evenish. Now, in my materials editor, I'm going to go and get a material for the selected object. There it is. Let's close this dialog. And what I'm going to do with this material is I'm going to take the contents of the diffuse channel and I'm going to drop it into the bump map channel, and I'm going to do an absolute cheat here where I'm going to say -60 because I'm using a color map. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me an interesting looking bump map here that's actually the right way round. So that works for me. Then I'm going to say create lights. I'm going to use a skylight, and I'm also going to use a mental array area spotlight, and that's going to be for my shadows. And we'll open up the spotlight parameters. We'll open up that fall off map a little bit. My shadow parameters can have a density of 0.65. And then this physical plane object is a sign of about 20,000 by 50,000. So that means if I want soft edge shadows, I'm going to have to go to the area light parameters, and I'll change this to 15,000mm by 15,000mm. So a rather large scene that we've got here. And I'll increase the number of samples. You remember we spoke about the area shadows? Well, mental array lights have area shadows by default, so we've got those in there now. So next thing for me to do is to just come in here to my render setup, go to assign renderer and make sure that I'm using my mental array renderer. Pick a size for my output. I'm going to pick a half HD, that I also call Web HD. I'm going to make it well, for the moment I'll make a single frame, and under my indirect illumination I'll turn that down to low. So very quickly now, I'll just do a render and just. just see what things look like. Yeah, it's very, very bright. I think what I need to do is, under my environment, I need to turn that down and then re-render. Just very, very quickly. Oh, that's a little bit better. You can see that the colours, it's not as bleached out as it was. And you can see we've got a little animation going here. And just wait for that to finish. There we go. So there's our ground plane and our ball in a single frame. That took about 25 seconds. So just doing a quick calculation, that should take about 33 minutes to render. Okay, so what I'll do is I will, where are we? I'm going to go back to my common tab. I'm going to say active time segment. I'm actually going to render this out as a stream of JPEGs. Render output, and I'll call that ball. I'll make it JPEGs just so it's nice and simple. We'll save that. We'll make it the best quality. And then I'll kick a render off. So first of all, if I look here and I go, I'll just go and find the folder actually. Here it is, it's under video training and it's under render output. So if I now say render, now unfortunately we can't resave any of these values for the lighting because the ball is changing the whole time. We also can't do like a fly-through animation where we would save certain points for the final gather map because the ball is changing all the time. So unfortunately that's not going to work. But if we do look here, you can see now that we've got ball 000 JPEG. And if we wait for a few moments just while we do the second frame, you'll find that what we've got is another one coming in. It's just going to finish here. There we go, and there's ball 1 JPEG. And if I just double click and open up that image, you can see that's our first frame. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here and then we will come back when we're finished with our animation. So now that our render's finished, what I'd like to do is just to check and see how that looked as a rendered output. Now you may think that you need a very expensive video editing program to do that, but in actual fact we can do that from right here inside of 3D Studio. If I go to my animation, I've not only got my options here to make preview and to view preview, but what I've also got under renderer is the option to use something called the RAM player. So if I click on the RAM player here, what that's going to require me to do is to load something into what's called channel A. Now I could do a comparison between two bits of video, but in this case all I'm going to do is to load an option in channel A, and you can see this is already gone for my project that we set up earlier on in the course. So I'll click on the first image, and you can see here we've got an option to say yes, that is a sequence, a little tick there, and then I'll just open that. Now just to double check, we've got a target path, we've got an option start at frame 0, end at frame 180. All sounds fair enough. So I'll then click OK. We'll check and make sure that we've got the resolution right. Again, start frame to end frame. We're also saying how much memory we've got in the machine. Now I've got 4 GB of RAM on this machine, so that's plenty for me. So I'll click OK, and that will now start to load the animation, and you can see each one of the frames coming in near real time. And at the bottom there, if you rewind the tape, you'll see that there was also a reference there to how much memory was being used up. So now that's loaded in, and we can see there it's used 119 megabytes of memory. What I can do is I can use my standard VCR controls here and just play through that animation, and there we go. Nice and simple. Now it's set to an automatic loop, Now in actual fact that's playing back at 30 frames a second. That's wrong, I want to make that 15. So I should have noticed that to begin with. And there you can see a nice animation showing squash and stretch. We're showing a certain amount of hang time at the top of each one of the curves as he jumps up and then very suddenly hits the floor. So hopefully now, if I just pause that, you'll have had a good introduction to animation in 3D Studio Max and have a clear understanding of the tools and the requirements of creating keyframed animation.